Today on The Big Show, we're hanging out with Dan Epstein, who has a brand new book coming out on April 29th called Stars and Strikes, Baseball in America in the Bicentennial Summer of 1976. We'll talk about Rick Monday's Snatch and also Reggie in Baltimore and a whole lot more. Let's do it! Hey, it's your good friend, it's your pal, it's your compadre. It's TC, everybody. How you doing? We are live without a net every Monday through Friday right here on The Big Show. Welcome to The Big Show of Love, baby. And for me, it's all about having a laugh, making some new friends like Dan today, and not being afraid to call the ridiculous in sports ridiculous, because a lot has changed since 1976. Some of it for the better, and some of it for the worse. You know, hey, let's talk about pitch counts as a matter of that. Don't get me started on pitch count. So, hey, not afraid to call the ridiculous in sports ridiculous, because no. Not interested in all the mamby-pamby people who got broomsticks up their tuchuses. No, not here. That's right. For me, it's all about having a good time all of the time. Speaking of a good time all the time, make sure you swing on by Sportsnaut.com. It is the unfiltered sports juggernaut. It has a brand new look. It is beyond sexy. You know what's going to happen? You're going to go to Sportsnaut.com, which is sports as in, well, sports, and then not as in you're the juggernaut, baby. You're going to go there, and you're going to end up dropping trow. It's so sexy. I kid you not, man. Trust me on that one. I don't know what I'm saying. Hey, if you're digging on the show, I'd appreciate a favor. Make sure you subscribe to the show on iTunes, and you can also catch the show up on, we're going to start posting full shows up on YouTube. So if you want to subscribe to the Sportsnaut channel on YouTube, that would be mighty, mighty, mighty fine of you. Hey, and if you really like the show, I'd ask you do me a favor. Tell a friend or a loved one about the show. Need your help. I need it. I really do. I need your help. Not only mentally, but also kind of orgasmically in some ways, perhaps. It's the summer of love. No, the summer of love wasn't 76, but hey, it was a good year, so it's got me all kind of excited and stuff. Yeah, no. Okay, there you go. Finally, if you want to follow me on Twitter, yes, I am on Twitter. Oh, my God. Yes, it is Hey TC as in hey. You know, hey, how you doing? And then TC as in tits, and C as in cleavage. And, you know, who doesn't love tits? Exactly. You know, I'm like Howard Hughes in The Aviator, Leonardo DiCaprio, Marty Scorsese movie. Now, there you go. So what's going on The Big Show today? Well, we're talking with Dan Epstein. He is an award-winning journalist, a raconteur. Wasn't that a Jack White band?
Yeah, although I had nothing to do with that.
Okay. You're also an author who lives in Southern California. The latest book is Stars and Strikes, Baseball in America in the Bicentennial Summer of 76, set to hit the streets on April 29th, and it's available on Amazon.com. How you doing, buddy boy?
I'm doing awesome, man. How are you?
I am peachy keen. Hey, so I 76, as I was telling you before the show got started, I was 7 years old then. So right. I was just kind of getting into baseball. And one of the things that I guess struck me about your book, well, the biggest thing that struck me about your book is I started doing a little research, and that was the year Reggie Jackson wasn't in New York or Oakland. He was in Baltimore that year. That's crazy.
Yeah, which is something that a lot of people forget about, is that Charlie Finley, the A's owner at the time, traded him and Kenny Holtzman, who was one of the A's best pitchers, to the A's for several players, including Don Baylor and Mike Torres. And that was because both Reggie and Holtzman hadn't signed their contracts, which meant that they would be free agents at the end of the year, which, you know, is a fairly common scenario now. But in 1976, this was a pretty big deal.
And free agency, that was 76 was the year of free agency, right?
Yeah, that was the November '76 was the first free agent reentry draft. It was the first time that teams were actually able to, pick which players they wanted to sign in the offseason, and players who hadn't signed deals during the year were able to sign with other teams.
Was it actually a draft, or?
It was actually a draft. They don't do it this way anymore, but it was really convoluted. It was like teams would draft which free agents they wanted to negotiate with, but they were only able to draft a handful of them, and players were only able to be drafted by up to 12 teams. So in Reggie Jackson's case, he was scared to death that he was going to only be drafted by the Brewers and the Indians and all these, smallish market teams. So he started putting word out about halfway through the season that he was really only interested in playing for a team on the coast. And even then it was pretty clear that he only wanted to go to Los Angeles and New York.
Was Reggie kind of one of the first baseball? I know there was the baseball players who kind of had the attitude and stuff, but was Reggie kind of one of the first guys that had that approach? If I ain't going to take any crap, nobody's going to tell me what to do.
No. I mean, I would say like Dick Allen before him was definitely one of those. But I mean, he was definitely one of the first, and certainly one of the first who could really back it up. I mean, Dick Allen as well. Like, these were guys who just wanted to do their own thing and do it in their own way. But I think Reggie, more than Dick Allen, really needed the spotlight. He needed to be the center of attention. He needed to be the hero. Whereas Dick Allen was a guy who just leave me alone. Let me hit the ball and don't ask me any questions about it. Reggie loved having people ask him questions.
Dick was in his final days with the Phillies then, wasn't he, at that point?
That's right.
76?
Yeah. 76 was his last full season. And when the season started, the Phillies were really counting on him to be one of their big run producers. They had Mike Schmidt and Greg Luzinski, but Allen was pretty much number 3 on that totem pole. And he did come through on and off throughout the season, but he had some injuries, and then he had some issues, which unfortunately flared up right around the time that the Phillies were preparing to go into the playoffs, and really kind of he kind of pulled the team apart. He after the team won their pennant, won their division pennant, he decided to go home for a few days and skip the final series of the season, and that didn't go over too well with some of his teammates.
I bet not. Gary Maddox also on the team. I love Gary Maddox as a kid, though my sweet spot for the Phillies came a couple of years later. A young man named Bake McBride, baby.
Yes, yeah. Bake was on the Cardinals during 1976.
Oh, was he?
Come over to Philly until the next year. But you see in '76, that's really where the Phillies team that would win in 1980. That's really where it kind of starts to take shape as a contender, and that was the first Phillies team to make it to the postseason since 1950. So it was a pretty big deal. Plus, Philadelphia was the epicenter of the whole Bicentennial celebration that year. So to have their team actually have a prospect of going to the World Series was a pretty big deal.
We're speaking with Dan Epstein. His latest book is Stars and Strikes, Baseball and America in the Bicentennial Summer of 1976, coming out on April 29th, and it's available on Amazon. You can follow Dan on Twitter at Big Hair Plasgrass. That's plastic grass, PLAS, and then GRAS. Plastic grass. Is that like synthetic grass, or?
Yeah. Well, my book before this one was called Big Hair and Plastic Grass, and that was that's a book about the entire decade of the '70s in baseball, and the proliferation of both Afro hairdos and artificial turf.
Now, see, I'm a product of the '80s, so when I saw Big Hair, I'm thinking the '80s.
Like Sunset Strip metal bands, kind of.
Exactly. Yeah, Van Halen, Rat, whatever you want there. Yeah, Motley Crue, that kind of stuff.
Right on.
I see that you were also a producer at VH1. Is this before they became MTV, so to speak?
No, they were associated with MTV at this point. But speaking of big hair, one of the things I did for VH1 was I produced a show called Ultimate Albums, and the episode that I worked on was the making of Bon Jovi's "Slippery When Wet."
Nice.
So there's some big hair for you.
I loved. It was probably around. What was that in the aughts? Basically, the decade of the 2000s when you were doing the Ultimate Adams albums.
That would have been like 2002, 2003.
It was kind of like a spin-off of Behind the Music a little bit.
Yeah, it was. It was kind of fun. It was kind of funny because they wanted it to not be like Behind the Music, but then every time you take the show in to show it to the bigwigs, all the changes they would want to make would be to make it more like Behind the Music. So it wound up being just kind of a bad clone of it, but it was fun.
If you guys were doing Pyromania or something or 1984 or sports, I'm all on board there, buddy boy.
Yeah,
I'm all on board. So one of the things about 76 was, well, looking at the book, you got a great picture of Oscar Gamble there, and everybody loved Oscar Gamble's hair back in the 70s, man. That guy just had vintage hair.
Not everybody loved it, though.
Really?
Yeah, well, when Oscar came to the Yankees in the offseason before 76, and 76 was when the Yankees first implemented their grooming policy that really kind of remains to this day. Yeah. And Oscar showed up and was told by Billy Martin that they wouldn't even give him a uniform until he cut his afro. And Oscar was kind of the opposite of Reggie Jackson, where these guys are both kind of funky, self-confident black dudes, but at the same time, Oscar was a total team player. Like, whatever the team wanted, Oscar would do it, and he got kind of a bad reputation for, being a more militant kind of guy. But that was just based on his hair, and which kind of like white sports writers at the time were kind of freaked out by a big black dude with a big afro. Ooh, that's scary. So, but Oscar was a mellow dude, and so when Martin and Steinberger said, "You got to get that haircut," he did, even though it wound up costing him an endorsement deal with Afro Sheen. So it really, it deprived. I would love to be able to go up on YouTube now and pull up an Oscar Gamble Afro Sheen commercial, but because of Steinbrenner's edicts, it does not exist.
The book is Stars and Strikes, Baseball and America in the Bicentennial Summer of 76. We're speaking with Dan Epstein. You can follow him on Twitter at Big Hair Plasgrass. And also the website is bighairplasticgrass.com. And the book, of course, available on Amazon. In my notes, I put here, Rick Monday's famous snatch. Now, that's probably not what I'd initially think, but yeah, I forgot that was the year of Rick's infamous patriotic move. Tell that story.
Yeah, the Cubs were playing the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium in late April of 76, and Rick Monday was the center fielder for the Cubs at the time. And early in the game, like between innings, Rick noticed a couple of people jumping out of the left field bleachers at Dodger Stadium and onto the field. And, in the 70s, it was pretty typical for people to run onto the field. Streakers were a big deal at the time. You pretty much couldn't go to a game without seeing a streaker on the field. But what was happening here, he realized, was that it was a guy and his kid, and they unfolded an American flag on the field and started pouring gas on it. They were clearly about to try to burn it. So Monday springs into action and runs over to where they're gathered around the flag and just snatches it away from them before they can right as the guy's trying to light it, and the guy winds up throwing his can of gasoline or lighter fluid at Rick Monday, and Monday just ran all the way into the Dodgers dugout with it and handed it to Doug Rao for safekeeping. And it just kind of happened in it took less than 60 seconds for the whole thing to unfold, but I think it really struck a chord with people in a way that, people still talk about it today, that it was this kind of, it was happening in the midst of the Bicentennial celebrations, but unlike the Bicentennial celebrations, there was nothing forced about Monday's show of patriotism and saving the flag. It's just like, hey, this is happening, and I don't know what's going on, but that flag is not getting burned on my watch. And it really turned him into kind of a national hero. He was, pretty much every ballpark he went to for the rest of the summer, he was given some sort of commendation by the local Daughters of the American Revolution chapter. And I think it made enough of an impression on one Tommy Lasorda, who was the Dodgers' third base coach at the time, that he was responsible for bringing Monday over to the Dodgers for '77.
Nice. Hey, well, no, yeah, I got another question for you on that. Whatever happened to the flag? Do you remember? Do you know?
Monday still has it.
Oh, does he? Oh, nice.
Yeah, the Dodgers gave it back to him, and he has it. He has it in a case in his home, and he still does every year about that time. He still does interviews about it, and shows the flag, and Monday was very humble about it. It wasn't he was a former Marine reservist, and it just felt like he was doing his duty, and that anybody in the same position would have done the same thing.
All right. That's a great story. Yeah, especially in the year of the Bicentennial, that something like that would happen.
Yeah.
That was that I don't know. I find that to be pretty. I find that to be pretty sexy. And the guys that did that, are they now professors at the University of Chicago?
This is the weird thing. Nobody seems to know what happened to those guys. Even if that sort of thing had happened today, like those within 24 hours after the incident, everybody would know everything about those guys, and it would be a topic on every talk radio show, every
sports radio, everywhere,
in every cable news show. And basically, what happened was the guy was a father and son, and the son's identity was never released because I think he was 11 years old at the time, and the father was a guy. It turned out he was from spacing at the moment. I think he was from Oklahoma, or he was from the Plains state somewhere, and said that he was burning the flag to protest the incarceration of his mentally ill wife, and he was fined, I think, $60 for it, put on probation, and nobody ever heard anything from him again. So there have been a lot of rumors since then about who these people were and what they were up to. But I think it was just really just a guy who was a little distraught and misguided, and what he was doing at a Dodger game, completely unclear.
So, what was your favorite track from "Slippery When Wet"?
Well, it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat "You Give Love a Bad Name," especially because at the time, John Bon Jovi used to introduce the song by just yelling into the microphone, "Bitch, you give love a bad name," and then the crowd would go so nuts that he would say it again, and then the band would go into it. So that's showmanship.
Very nice. Hey, who was your favorite player in the 1976 season?
Mark Fidryoh, no question.
The Bird, yeah.
The Bird. I mean, part of that was because I was growing up in Michigan at the time, so the Tigers were my team, and the Tigers were terrible. So, for this guy to kind of come out of nowhere and be this brilliant pitcher was cool in itself. But then also, he was 21, 22. He, had the sort of long curly hair. He looked like he could have been just like a slightly grown up member of the Bad News Bears. And and he just had so much fun. Like, so as you know, and even like as a kid, I initially thought like his mound mannerisms, you know, the talking to the ball, the dropping to the knee to smooth the mound out. I thought like that was all just a put on to attract attention. But as the season went on, you couldn't help but realize that like he was being completely genuine, and it was incredibly charming. He was great.
The picture that I remember the most about being eccentric when I was a kid was Al Hrabosky.
The Mad Hungarian.
Exactly.
Yes, he was pitching for the Cardinals in '76, and he was. He was the guy who would stomp around on the mound between every pitch. He had that great Fu Manchu mustache, and it was all, you know. It was kind of a shtick, but it was a genuine reflection of who the guy was. And there was an incident. It's not in this book, but it's in Big Hair and Plastic Grass, because I think it occurred in '75, where Bill Madlock of the Cubs came to the plate against Hrabosky, and so Hrabosky would stomp around on the mound between every pitch, but then when he would get set, Madlock would step out of the box and stomp around on the ground. And this went on for a couple of minutes, and he was trying to get Hrabosky's goat, but what happened was Ted Simmons, who was the Cardinals catcher at the time, just like wound up punching Madlock in the face.
That's great. I love it. Hey, we're speaking with Dan Epstein. His new book is Stars and Strikes, Baseball and America in the Bicentennial Summer of 1976. And you can find it on Amazon. The website is bighairplasticgrass.com. And you can follow Dan on Twitter, bighairplasgrass. Before we go, last thing I want to do, I want to play a little game with you. You got time for a little game?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I want to play a game. You and I are going to play a game with Dan. So there you go, if that makes any sense.
You, the listener.
Exactly, yeah. So the book chapters are named after, I guess, hit songs of the summer or that year of '76, right? Yeah,
well, not just the summer, but just the whole year.
Okay.
Every chapter title is a hit song from '76.
Okay, so I'm going to run through the chapter titles, and you and I will try to guess, and Dan will let us know if he's right or if we're right on the song title. So the introduction is "Play That Funky Music," and I know that because that's Wild Cherry, baby, right?
That's correct.
All right, "More Than a Feeling." I gotta love the Boston album, one of the perhaps perfect rock albums of all time.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I think it is total rock perfection.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Let's Do It Again. I'm stumped on that one. I have no idea. Chapter 1.
That is the Staple Singers, a song written by Curtis Mayfield from the movie of the same name, starring Bill Cosby and Jimmy J.J. Walker.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I didn't see. I mean, my experience when I was young was watching Good Times and Different Strokes and the Jeffersons. Man, that's where I was at. I was all over that.
Yeah.
I didn't see a lot of movies in the '70s. I'm like Herbie the Love Bug and Star Wars. That's about it. Willy Wonka too.
Good choices.
Take It to the Limit. I want to say the Doobie Brothers.
Close.
Oh.
Eagles.
Oh, yes, very nice. Tear the Roof Off the Sucker. I love the name of that song, but I have no idea who did it.
That was Parliament.
Parliament.
That was 1976 was a big year for Parliament Funkadelic, George Clinton, and they actually had I think one of their greatest tours that fall that actually featured a giant spaceship landing on the stage, which they would then come out of and lay the funk on you.
My mom was listening to country music, so there wasn't a lot of George Clinton in the house.
You were digging the P-Funk.
Yeah, exactly. If it's "Hello, Darlin'" is one of the chapters, well then, yeah, boom, I know who that is. Let 'Em In. Once again, I have no idea. Let 'Em In.
That was Wings, Paul McCartney's band.
Ah, okay.
That was one of the biggest hits of 1976, in fact.
That's one of the best jokes of all time, though you might not think what it is. What do you call a dog with wings? Yoko Ono.
Oh.
I don't know. Makes no sense. But the boys are back in town. I'm a rock guy, so I know that's Thin Lizzy, Phil Lynott.
Absolutely, one of my all-time favorite bands.
Yeah, Whiskey in the Jar, baby. Though I love Metallica's cover a little bit more. So.
Wow, that's saying something. But yes, yeah. Their version of Whiskey in the Jar is outstanding.
It is great. More. When I think of more, I think of Billy Idol's Rebel Yell. So I have no idea on this one.
This was a band called the Andrea True Connection, which was they were a one-hit wonder, but a huge hit. It was a disco track, and Andrea True was actually a former porn star, and who briefly crossed over into the pop chart. Nice.
Chapter 7 is Strange Magic. Now, if I had to guess, because I have no idea, I'd guess it's a Bob and Doug McKenzie meets Ann and Nancy Wilson song. Am I right?
You are wrong. This would be the Electric Light Orchestra.
Oh,
Yellow.
I love Jeff Lynne, but I just don't know any of the song titles.
Yeah, no, that was 1976 was a big year for ELO too. The Strange Magic was, I think, one of 4 or maybe 5 big hits they had that year.
Chapter 8 is Afternoon Delight. I have no idea who sings it, and I only really know that song because of an episode of Arrested Development.
You don't remember it from Anchorman?
I saw that movie once, and unlike most other people, I'm not a big fan of Will Ferrell. I think he's a good supporting actor in movies, but I don't think he can really carry a movie. So.
Well, fair enough. But there was a good scene involving that. But that was another one-hit wonder called the Starland Vocal Band.
Oh yeah,
who had actually been discovered by no less than John Denver.
Now I know John Denver, of course, because my mom was a country, though John Denver was a little bit, not so much country, Is that story true? I heard this in the movie. I'm sorry to keep you, but is that story true? I'm watching Super Troopers. You ever seen Super Troopers?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's a great movie. It came out, 10, 12 years ago. It's a fantastic movie about a bunch of state troopers, and I don't know. It's the Broken Lizard comedy guys, and Brian Cox.
Okay, yeah.
Original Hannibal Lecter's in it, and Wonder Woman's in it as well. Speaking of the 70s, and he tells the story of Charlie Rich having to give the award to John Denver after he won Country Entertainer of the Year, and Charlie Rich, instead of giving it to John Denver, lights the Country Music Award on fire.
Yeah, that is true.
Oh, okay. There you go. Very nice.
I thought you were going to ask me the John Denver sniper story, which is not true.
Oh, okay. No, I don't know that.
Well, there's a persistent rumor that John Denver had been either a U.S. Army or Special Operations sniper in Vietnam, and that the experience had affected him so profoundly that he came back and became a peaceful, long hair, acoustic guitar strumming dude. That's not true.
I love that story, though.
I know, it's great.
You Should Be Dancing, obviously the Bee Gees, man.
Obviously.
Was that was before that was on the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, but was it released on another album? Yeah,
it was released earlier, I believe, on the Children of the World LP, and that was a huge hit. That's the thing that a lot of people don't remember now, is that the Bee Gees were already having huge disco hits before Saturday Night Fever, like You Should Be Dancing, which is one of the reasons that they were approached to do the soundtrack for that film.
What You Doing on Your Back? Chapter 10 is Don't Go Breaking My Heart, and I'm guessing this isn't the 80s song. I thought it was an 80s song, but I'm guessing Anita Hill here.
No. This is Elton John and Kiki D, another one of the biggest hits of 1976.
Oh yeah, now I remember that song. I don't know why I'm thinking Anita Hill. Crazy.
I don't know either.
Okay. Well, like I said, I was 7, so what do you want?
Right.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
Still the One, which I'm guessing is not Shania Twain.
No, definitely not. This is a band called Orleans.
Oh yeah.
They had a handful of hits. "Dance with Me" was another one, but still the One. Actually, ABC, I believe, was using "Still the One" way back then as like their promo music for various ads for ABC shows.
When did was Ram Jam a single that year? Black Betty?
Oh, Black Betty, I think that was 75.
Oh, 75. Okay. Chapter 12.
But close.
Is Take the Money and Run. I was thinking the Eagles at first, but I could hear the song in my head. Then I remembered, Steve Miller Band.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then finally...
Steve Miller Band was huge.
Yeah, they were gigantic. And then finally, Baby, I Love Your Way. I know that one. That's Peter Frampton.
Yeah, and Frampton Comes Alive. I mean, that was one of the... I think that was the biggest selling record. It was certainly the biggest selling live record of the time. I think Boston wound up eclipsing it fairly quickly with their first album. But yeah, Frampton Comes Alive was just a phenomenon in 1976.
And that ties us right back to Slippery When Wet with the voice box.
That's 2 ultimate albums right there, man. Frampton Comes Alive and Slippery When Wet.
So what was your favorite song of 76?
Oh, wow. Favorite song of 76. Honestly, it would probably a toss-up between More Than a Feeling and a more obscure one called Shake Some Action by the Flamin' Groovies.
Yeah, I don't know that one, man, but it sounds fun.
No, you should. It's one of the greatest rock songs ever written, but sadly, it just, it will remain in obscurity forever.
Dan, you are the best. I thank you for indulging me, and good luck on the book, buddy boy.
Oh, dude, this was a total pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right, let's wrap it up. Once again, you can find the show on iTunes. Make sure you subscribe. You can find it in Stitcher. You can find it in the app called Swell if you want to download it for your phone. And then, of course, you can find us on YouTube. YouTube, everybody. The website is sportsnaut.com. I call it the Unfiltered Sports Juggernaut. I'm pretty sure you call it your friend and your lover. Come on, admit it. You do. I know you do. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. If you want to send me an email, you can at tc@sportsnaut. That's sports as in sports and not as in you're the juggernaut, baby. And, of course, you can follow me on Twitter. It's HeyTC. That's right. I changed my Twitter handle. It's now just HeyTC. I have the wonderful people of Twitter to thank for that. And Mr. Jason Sticks Buckley. He is sexy, even if he's not sporting the locks of love anymore. I miss the locks of love with Jason. You have to go back and search for the Jason Sticks Buckley show on Sportsnaut. It's a humdinger of Willie something. I don't know. Somebody's Willie. Anyways, that's all I got to say there. Also, once again, big thanks to Dan Epstein for coming on the show. Make sure you head on over to Amazon and get yourself a copy of the brand new book. It's Stars and Strikes, Baseball and America in the Bicentennial Summer of 1976. I have a copy, an advanced copy right here, and let me tell you, it is a sexy book. You got Mike Schmidt on the cover. You got Chris Chambliss. You got, is that Tom Hume? I'm not sure. You got a couple of Mets. I don't recognize them. Jerry Koosman and Nolan Ryan. No, they weren't on that team in 76, I don't think. And then you got Chet Lemon maybe in Chicago. Anyways, beautiful book, some great pictures in it, and just awesome stories. So I usually don't fawn over myself for a book, but this is a really good book. If you're into 1976, if you're into 70s baseball, it is dynamic. And, of course, you can follow Dan on Twitter. It's Big Hair, Plastic Grass. So it's actually Big Hair, Plas Grass. Cool. And the website is Big Hair, Plastic Grass as well. Big show in the book. I appreciate the time. Thank you very much. Have yourself a wonderful evening, and I'll see you in the emergency room.